Friday, November 14th, 2025, the highly unanticipated Call of Duty Black Ops 7 depressingly dropped. Nobody was asking for it and nobody was excited because on October 25th, 2024, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 had dropped. You heard that right, Black Ops 7 dropped 1 year and 3 weeks after its predecessor, breaking a well-known schedule to loyal fans of the game. Unlike 7, people were excited for Black Ops 6 because it had been 4 years since its previous installment, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, was released. So what disintegrating paper straw broke this pixelated camel's back? An imploding system, that's what. For the uninitiated, Call of Duty has been coming out once a year ever since 2005, meaning that there are 22 Call of Duty games, and since 2005 they have been coming out annually. The first Call of Duty game was released in 2003, meaning there has only ever been one single instance where a gap of more than 1 year occurred between the release of one Call of Duty to another. This works through a complicated ecosystem where each quote version of Call of Duty is not made by the same people. Call of Duty was originally led by developers Treyarch and Infinity Ward. Infinity Ward is the mastermind behind Modern Warfare, and Treyarch is the genius behind Black Ops. In 2011, Sledgehammer Games was added to the roster, allowing these games to have 3-year development cycles instead of the previous 2 years, supposedly giving them significantly more breathing room when creating these quote-unquote masterpieces. By the way, in case you're not in the know about how these games can be appealing, what happens is that there are actually specific franchises within the same umbrella. There is the Modern Warfare universe, the Black Ops universe, and the whatever it is we are trying to pull off today universe created by Sledgehammer Games. 1 year you'll go and you'll play Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and you can continue that story in 3 years. Next year you play Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and you can continue that story in 3 years, and now you're only 2 years away from playing the new Black Ops story. Next year you go and you play Call of Duty World War II, and let's say that this year you're not feeling it because it's a Sledgehammer game, and well, that's okay because next year Black Ops 4 is coming out and you don't have to see what comes next to this World War II story until 3 years from now. This is how Call of Duty can release a new game every single year and keep people entertained. It's actually pretty galaxy brain. Everything we've talked about up to this point is just context to explain why Black Ops 7 is such a disappointingly subpar release. You see, Call of Duty is a staple of gaming. It has one of the biggest esports in the world, is a tried and true financial success, and pleases a fan base that was once considered a niche. We were the average dude bros drinking G Fuel and had gamer socks to improve our gameplay. Every once in a while we would drop an F-bomb in the chat and call someone a loser, you know, the usual Call of Duty lobby stuff. For all intents and purposes, Call of Duty has been a premier military shooter, not always because of its quality, but primarily because it dominates the market. According to its tried and true formula, Black Ops 6 came out last year, so this year it's supposed to be something else. It's not supposed to be a Black Ops, and yet here we are. But why? Did any of you play Black Ops 6? If you did, you would know that something felt off. The campaign was mid with the exception of the horror mission, and it left a to be continued sense. The multiplayer felt basic with nothing original being offered, and the zombie story was one of the weakest they've ever made, at least mechanically. A campaign is usually supposed to be able to hold its own up until the next game. Multiplayer is supposed to always include something unique to keep us here for the long 3-year ride, and zombie story is supposed to be a multi-year expansion that builds up into a one giant final payoff. But it ended in less than a year. All the while, the microtransaction store is pumping out skins more than ever, with every aspect of the game feeling just a little bit off. Then comes Black Ops 7's open beta. If you play the open beta, right away the writing was on the walls. There was something a little bit off here. They allowed Black Ops 6's multiplayer to be unoriginal in order to make this the big seller. They added wall bouncing for the first time in a Call of Duty game, introducing a whole new unlock system and revised the kill streak methodology. I'm not going to say this game changed the landscape like Timefall did the shooters, but I will say this is a very unique style for a Call of Duty game. It didn't take much for my friends and I to realize this is exactly what the beta is doing. It's showing us that Black Ops 7 was the premier option. So no, I'm not here to rain on you multiplayer heads' experience. I'm actually far from it. I think it's actually cool to have a more unique style of Call of Duty combat rather than just running through hallways getting mowed down by the same nerd over and over again. At least this time when I die, it's because I'm jumping off a wall trying to do a cool 360 no-scope mid-air, and it's just original. What I am here to discuss is how it's time for Call of Duty to have an honest conversation with itself about its identity going forward. Look up any reviewer's video or tweets about this game, and all you're going to see is that everyone agrees that the campaign is probably one of the worst in the series. And that says a lot because I still remember Call of Duty Ghosts like it was yesterday, and that thing was terrible. In the simplest of terms, the story undermines the efforts of the previous game's story just for a twist that gets revealed right away and then goes, "But it was all a dream, Mason." Because yes, you're playing as David Mason, protagonist of Black Ops 2 and son of fan favorite reoccurring character Alex Mason, aka the numbers guy. So after this extravagant game tells you that it's just a dream sequence, you spend the whole campaign fighting a dream sequence to stop a total catastrophe. In case you missed this incredible game, this game has now shifted into becoming a looter shooter without any of the looter and any of the shooter. Obviously I'm joking about the shooter part, but there are now rarities to guns you find throughout the game, and that determines how much damage you're doing to the enemies. But spoiler alert, the game doesn't really do it randomly, you just get better rarities as the campaign progresses. AKA enemies now just have more health and your gun now needs to do more damage for you to compensate for the health change. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of this campaign anymore, but I do want to shift the conversation to what I really want to talk about here. How Call of Duty is at a crossroad that needs to pick a lane and master that one thing, because it can't really be doing 3 things at once anymore. It absolutely cannot juggle between campaign, multiplayer, and zombies, and I am a die-hard campaign guy for any of the Call of Duty games. It can have some of the best multiplayer, but if I just don't jive with the narrative, I dip out. But at the same time, if the game is multiplayer focused, then I'm all in. I'm looking at you, Rainbow Six Siege and Apex Legends. Why do we believe that Black Ops 6 and 7 were split into 2 different projects? It's because behind the scenes, there's something else going on. The whole world is imploding. It simply cannot sustain the intense crunch of time being put into these studios every single day, every single year. How many times can you recreate the same product without losing its freshness and originality? As we learn from its competitors such as Battlefield 6, it's actually essential to constantly change the formula to give gamers time to leave and return. So, if you will indulge me, this is my proposal if I were an advisor to these developers and publishers. Split up your game. If you've played any of the contemporary Call of Duty games, you need to have this thing called the Call of Duty launcher installed. In essence, it's a glorified main menu where you can select which Call of Duty game you want to play, whether you're going to load up Warzone or if you want to explore the shop. There's also options for multiplayer, zombies, and a campaign tab, where from there you choose which aspect of the game you want to open up. In my opinion, it's a terrible system, but it makes sense because in theory, you can pick and choose what you want to do and don't have to take up more storage for another game on your hard drive. To fix this dumpster fire, these companies either have to sacrifice the campaign or deliver these stories to another studio. I know, Pojecki, it isn't that easy. Pojecki, it'll lose the general vibe and feeling. Pojecki, you're incredibly handsome. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate the compliment. I really needed it today. Second of all, actually, I have a first-hand knowledge as to what goes on into making these decisions, having worked as an investment advisor and data analyst for an investment firm. You ever heard of lab-grown diamonds and how they're incredibly popular now? Just gonna say, you're welcome. In these board meetings, we would break down what is and isn't working and what it is that their trajectory should be. Now, to be transparent, I never worked with a video game exactly, but I did work with the tech sector and help determine how we needed to proceed with their subsequent stages to maximize profits. While in there, we would always discuss the areas of quote-unquote fat that would need to be trimmed. If we trim the fat too far and cut into the meat of our product, then people will start to dip out. Consumers don't just want the core product, they want the core product with all these extra flavors on the outside, aka fat. Not to get too technical because honestly nobody cares, but those of you who do, what happens is that these people have internal data on how much campaign is actually being affected for the sales based on retention time, play time, selection analysis, and all sorts of technical factors that they had at hand. From my knowledge of how the tech sector works, these companies operate within the 10 to 20% range of audience members engaging with and using a feature. If a game has something, and at most less than 20% of the player base uses it, consider that they're either going to get rid of it or change it the next time around. Only 10%, it's just getting deleted. This is a rule of thumb, but then there are legacy mechanics and other options that get muddied in there, and it gets really complicated as to what we do and don't get rid of. After doing some research, I figured out that Call of Duty campaigns have about a 30 to 50% active usage threshold, aka an AUT, which means that the story mode is in a safe place from being completely axed. Yet, if we look at the long-term sales, I'm confident that in the modern landscape of microtransactions, the primary use of a campaign is to hook a casual player who will buy a few things and then drop out. If your main focus becomes that you only bleed your fanbase dry with microtransactions, then they will stop investing, which is what we see currently happening with Destiny, Rainbow Six Siege, and Apex Legends. Pojecki, you're just contradicting yourself. Well, to that I say, yes I am, and no I'm not. I did by showing my cards and telling you campaigns are hooks that bring in the cheese. But that's what's so fun about being a consultant. You don't need to see all my cards for you to understand what I'm trying to say. They would need to actively resurrect the entire mentality of what it means to buy or play a Call of Duty game, and how it is experienced. My consultation is make the campaign tie in deeper with everything else that you have, such as ways to change up by playing as your multiplayer character as seen in Halo Reach, or offering alternative looks and audio like in Gears of War 5. Frankly, I have numerous ideas on how to make this better and how to make this happen, which could be easily supported by any data I am provided based on the trends I am already familiar with and have worked on. But unfortunately for you and me, my amazing viewer that somehow has made it this far into a lame video, is that I can't give you all these ideas because of advice that my old boss once gave me. Hojeki, never reveal the biggest cards until you get fully paid. Going off script a little bit, but this also sparked another idea in my mind, which is the fact that these video games are now a testament to not listening to their communities. I know what I said earlier in the video. I'm gonna stop talking about the campaign, but I just want you to look at the footage I have up on screen right now. Take at least 5 to 10 seconds out of whatever you're doing and look at it. Does that guy look a little bit familiar to you? Maybe it should, because that's Michael Rooker, aka Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy, or how I discovered him from The Walking Dead. Anybody who plays video games loves to see Hollywood celebrities in their video games. Just ask anybody who played Cyberpunk 2077 and saw Keanu Reeves as Johnny Silverhand, or any of the secret players of the Death Stranding series and Norman Reedus. Yet, I feel like Call of Duty and many other video games in the industry are taking the wrong lessons away from these things. Absolutely yes, we love to see celebrities in our games, and absolutely yes, we love to interact with them and see them give their greatest performances sometimes. But on the other hand, we want to see them in good, compelling narratives. I don't want to see Keanu Reeves be thrown away, Norman Reedus to be useless, or Michael Rooker to just be a monster in the distance shooting lasers out of his mouth at me. And for the sake of argument, no, I'm not counting Easter egg performances which are as cool as ever, or Easter egg voiceovers. I'm talking about when these artists are supposed to be the center selling point of these games. Once again, the industry is pretending like it knows exactly what we want, when in reality we're just sitting here eating slop that we don't even want just for the sake of being happy. There's nothing more I love than an industry actually changing the narrative, changing everything around me, and making me feel like I'm embracing something new for the first time. There was a time not too long ago where battle royales weren't even a thing and the industry was shocked by it and everything got exciting. PUBG, Fortnite, Apex Legends, I can just think about so many off the top of my head that just defined a whole new genre of video games. But then what happened? Then the industry started to catch on that this is a money cow that they can invest on, and Call of Duty decided to create Warzone, and suddenly it just felt like your older dad who just tried to use slang for the first time. What I want is for these industries, these massive titans, the Call of Duties, the Halos, the Battlefields, I want these guys to go out and make their own things rather than just trying to grab onto trends that gamers are enjoying somewhere else. Want to know why Counter-Strike is so successful still? It's because they've just stuck to the same formula over and over again, and they haven't tried to invade any other space. Counter-Strike knows what it is, and it's tried and true to its message, and that's why gamers still love it, and that's why they still have one of the biggest esports in the universe. I don't find it coincidental that when Call of Duty tried to catch on the trends, Call of Duty fell off. And if you thought all of that is off script, here comes another thought that comes to mind that I think we really need to talk about with Call of Duty. Call of Duty Zombie Mode is legendary and it needs way more support. Now, I'm an old head and I haven't actually done any of the stories completely all the way through since the days of the old Black Ops. Even more context, I think the last time I finished an entire Call of Duty zombie story was on the map of Origins. But that doesn't mean I haven't played it every single iteration that it comes out with. I have watched countless hours of zombies YouTubers just going through and creating different challenges and doing all sorts of different weird things with this format just to entertain and have fun with something that is so beautiful. You see, zombies is kind of a diamond in the rough. You have to get through so much of these games just to unlock it sometimes, and that's when the real fun begins. You ever watch that YouTuber The Smith Plays? I remember I was one of his first 100 subscribers subscribers, and he meant the absolute world to me. But guess what? Him and a lot of other zombie YouTubers have left the platform and have stopped making content for Call of Duty. I would argue that they are some of the most invested people into the Call of Duty franchise, and they were the ones that are left out in the dust the most. Because why? Because Call of Duty believes that it needs to chase trends instead of doubling down on the things it does best. Things like the zombies campaign, the zombies maps, and the zombies world. Call of Duty is more interested in copying art than making art. And the only way it could improve any of these things, like zombies, like the campaign, like multiplayer, is splitting up its industry and trying to figure it out one piece at a time. Truth be told, they can redefine a whole new generation of video games if they just decide to create zombies as a one-off thing, its own independent game where that's the one thing that gets supported, with more balances happening to it, with battle passes included in it. Hell, they can make a whole zombies universe or world game where that's the only place you have to buy over and over. Make it like other games, make it like Call of Duty where you have to buy each iteration, but just dedicate one single thing to it and you'll see that it's gonna pop off. Or imagine a world where all the Call of Duty campaigns are actually connected like the way they want them to be, and each story is compelling and there's these through lines that we can see from the beginning. That would be so incredible. But no, the industry has decided that you, me, and anybody who enjoys these games are actually buffoons or idiots who are too stupid or blind to understand what they want, and instead these big mega corporations can give us whatever they want and that we should pay them and be grateful for them. And I'm over it. I'm really over Call of Duty treating us like simpletons. I'm over the fact that they want us to fight the same boss for over 5 to 10 minutes. Don't believe me? Look at the background. The same footage has been playing with no edits. They're still fighting Michael Rooker. Look at him. He's just still slamming his hands, but now the map is all red. If I keep going off script, this thing's gonna go on forever, so I apologize for that, but if you're still here with me, thank you, because we need to talk about why Call of Duty sucks and why it needs to stop doing what it's doing. Oh, and if you're the kind of guy who's about to go in my comments and say, oh, Pojeki, you should just stop playing these games. If you don't like him, don't play him. Yes, I get that. Thank you very much. But Call of Duty's still coming out every year, and my friends are still going to be interested in one way or another, and I'm still going to be dragged into playing them because I like playing with my friends. And if I'm going to be playing with my friends, I want to play something more worthwhile. So, long story short, there's potential for these games to work, have excellent campaigns, multiplayer and more, but it requires an entire restructuring of the system that they have in place, and to do so takes so much money and time that I doubt that they're going to be willing to invest into something that's actually progressive. Call of Duty needs to stop. It needs to stop and restart. It needs a reboot and all things that it needs to take a pause on and give itself a little bit more time to produce content more worthwhile. And like a phoenix, I think Call of Duty can in fact burn and rise from the ashes. Hey, what do I know? I'm just some gamer who's complaining who has 4 degrees and a lot of field experience. So, in the end, this has been Pojeki, your guide through all things nerdy. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments because frankly, Call of Duty is just one of those things we should talk about rather than just throwing it to a side. And before I officially log off, just a few things here. First of all, thank you so much for all the support. I'm actually surprised that I went from 26 subscribers to 1K because of my Halo video. Thank you to everybody who's here for that. Secondly, I'm about to leave you with the trailer / intro to the zombies of Call of Duty Black Ops 7 because I think it's important for us to really see that there's a lot of love and passion here and there's a lot that we can do from it. There's an immense amount of potential here like there always has been, and I hope that you, me, and everybody starts giving pressure to these Call of Duty developers to focus more on the beautiful art that they make in places like this rather than the slop that was on screen for over 5 minutes. So, thank you everybody. Have a good one. I really appreciate you being here with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.